Greetings, everyone. Hello, Vaughan here. Today, I have a guest with me on Dr. Metalhead, Fortunus Games, who is the host of the literary podcast, The Nuts and Bolts of Writing. And today, we're going to analyze a song by the Russian folk metal band Arkona. This is a special edition because this is one of the bands that me and Fortunus Games have in common. So this is why we've chosen to analyze this, even though I'm a bit out of my comfort zone because I'm not really familiar with Russian language or Slavic folklore very much. But since I'm familiar with folk metal and pagan themes, and my previous video was Vardruna, which was another folk group, I will share my ideas and explain what I can understand from the translation of the lyrics here.
Right. And we actually also previously did a small live stream on my channel, which you guys can read in the description. And we basically also talked about this and analyzed the lyrics without listening to the song. And that was actually one of the first times we ever read the lyrics. This will be the second time. And we're listening to it as we analyze. So it's a bit different because this one focuses a little bit more on the sound as well.
Exactly, that's true. That's true. So we are going to discuss folk music in general and the structure of the folk song, and also the themes and the meaning of the song Zimushka by Arkona.
Right, exactly. So are you ready? I'm going to play the song now.
Yeah, let's listen.
So right off the bat, we can hear that it's a very atmospheric and slow metal song, which is in contrast to a lot of, the assumptions that people have about the metal genre.
Definitely, because this is folk metal, and we can sense that in the tune right away. It is supposed to be very atmospheric.
And there's also a lot of special instruments here. I think these are, genuine medieval instruments, kind of like what Wardruna has been using. This is not a typical, metal sound. You can hear a little bit of, the metal music, metal instruments in the bass, but that horn, I think that was being blown sounded very medieval.
Yes, that's true.
Zimushka, zima, zima, mороз, zima, вогні, морозива, зима, до ліду, молодця.
So that was the first stanza. And basically, they were talking about winter over and over again, which winter in Russian is zima. And then, the diminutive form of that is zimushka. So they're addressing winter in a more familiar way, almost like if it's a person or personification.
Exactly. So this song is based on an ancient Siberian native song. So we see that folk songs usually portray the life of simple people and timeless things like life, death, love, suffering, hard work, family, and time. And these are all lyrics. These are all themes that we are going to see in this song here, right? So folk song is a very subjective type of literature, and it's meant to be relatable and emotional and make the events and the characters described feel very real to the listener. So it needs to invoke a strong emotion, and this is why, to captivate the listener's attention, it begins with an invocation of a spiritual entity represented here by winter, and there is this plea not to freeze the good young fellow, and we'll see who that is.
Ні мороз, зима, да добра молодця. Ой, как сможем мы тоже на долине не кладу жила.
So that's another two stanzas. And as you can see here, it's very much like a folk song because of the repetition. As I noted in our live, most of these stanzas actually repeat what was previously said, with only the last line or the last two lines introducing some new content.
Exactly. So, what is important to know about folk songs is that in early societies, this used to be transmitted orally, which leads to a series of characteristics in terms of structure. Yeah. So, we see here the simple structure, the short lines, the simple rhyme scheme, and also a lot of interjections like the hey part and a lot of alliterations and repetitions, which all are for the sake of easy memorizing. So for the sake of this fluidity and oral transmission is why we have the repetitions. So the meaning of the song is only gradually revealed to us. Right,
Mhm.
so it is only now that we see that the song is about a husband and a wife, so family life and love, like we said, but also suffering, because we see that the husband and wife do not live in harmony. So theirs is a very harsh relationship.
So more repetition here, as we can see, about their suffering.
Indeed, indeed. And now we see that the good young fellow from the beginning of the song is indeed the husband, and
Mm-hmm.
something bad has happened to him, and she is mourning it.
Mm-hmm. So here we can hear more metal elements. Finally, we can hear, the electric guitar and as well as some other instruments.
I really love this about Arkona, how they can blend so wonderfully the elements of folklore and those of metal as a very contemporary style of music. So the lyrics and the song structure, the vocal song structure is very authentic and very folk.
Mm-hmm. So I noticed that in a lot of these longer ballad-like songs, what happens is that they have these long instrumental stretches in between stanzas where a lot of shifts are happening. So after this instrumental stretch, we're going to hear more about what happened to the husband. And it's actually pretty different in mood as well as in theme than the previous parts of the song.
Yes, indeed.
So here we can see what has finally happened, or well, not really what happened, but what she did to him.
So she appears here as a sort of a villain of this scenario, because we know that their relationship was full of suffering, but now we see that she put an end to that. So either she was the cause of the suffering, or she was the one who ended it.
Exactly. It's interesting also that this part is a very different in terms of, the visual keys that it gives off. They're talking about hanging him in the green garden and plaguing him in the green garden, which is, quite in contrast with the beginning of the song, which is, talking about the cold, vast, cold darkness of winter.
Right, so the Green Garden seems to point to the woman's nostalgia, who is thinking about all those times when she was with her husband and they were perhaps happy together, or at least they were just together. And we'll see how this means so much to her, even though she was the one who hanged him in the garden.
Mm-hmm.
Проклинала жизнь, да всё заможем жить, только сможем мы тоже на домику, домику Божьем. Как сможем жена, да в домику Божьем, где сможем тоже на домику, только сирота.
So this is the key image of the song itself, which is the illustration of the woman, as you can see in the cover of the song, sitting on a bench outside a building in winter, looking horribly distraught by what she's done.
Indeed, so she killed her husband and she's very sad, but as we can see, she doesn't really feel guilty, but she sort of feels unsatisfied, rather.
Exactly. And now this is an instrumental part where, we just kind of get absorbed into the feelings that she has. So now she's cursing the fact that she's killed him. And now, she has no purpose to her life anymore because, she is a housewife. She was a housewife when her husband was still alive, but now she's nothing. She has no purpose.
Exactly. So she feels that she has no identity without him, and now she is only a bereaved woman. And I'm not sure if it is the same in Russian language as it is in Germanic languages, but housewife can refer to the mistress of the house, one important role of authority that a woman can play in the household. So now she's just a widow.
Поеду в зелень сад, достану мужа звать, ох, уж ты, а может и мой муж, да ли ты, и голубчик мой. Уж ты, муж мой, муж, да ты, голубчик мой, ох ты, голубчик мой, дали мы, а мы пойдем домой.
And that's the end.
So what I find it very interesting and very significant is that she doesn't see herself as the killer. She doesn't think that she did something wrong. in a contemporary key, we can understand that she is psychopathic. But since this is the folk song, I will interpret this as a sign of predestination. So a belief in the immutability of destiny, which is so
Mm-hmm.
prevalent in earlier societies, right? So she sees herself as the hand of fate in a way, and his death is but maybe a consequence of his actions in her view, and she was the one who helped destiny fulfill itself. So she's sad because she loved him, but she feels that she had to do it. She had to kill him. And she's disappointed that it came to this because this leads to her being alone. And the song ends with her invoking her husband in a very endearing manner. She says, "Oh, my husband, my darling, we shall go home." So perhaps she believes that they will meet in the afterlife and be reunited.
Right. So maybe at the end of the song, she's considering joining him.
It is a very fascinating song, and I would really like to know the original poem this is based upon, because I feel that it is truly intriguing, and I really love the emotion in the singer's voice and how she manages to convey these very deep feelings and this very psychological song of grief.
Mm-hmm, exactly. It begins as an invocation to the seasons. It seems like one of those songs, where you talk about a deity that's actually a representation of a season, like winter or spring, but it turns out to be something more personal.
Definitely, definitely. I feel that it is highly psychological, in fact. And even the fact that she doesn't feel guilt shows the belief in predestination, in fate,
Mm-hmm.
which is
Right.
very representative of the culture that it is meant to portray, and of a lot of earlier cultures.
Right, exactly. Because back then people were not as individualistic and they also kind of saw things as, kind of just having to happen sometimes. So in a way, I guess they would feel less personalized when it comes to dramatic events like this. So that's why there
Exactly.
doesn't seem to be that much trauma, but at the same time, there is sadness still.
It is something natural that happens. Of course, it is sad, but it's not shocking.
Right. So it goes back to the name of the song too, right? Winter. Lots of people die during winter. So in a way, it is sort of natural in that sense.
It is rare to find something that is so emotional and so passionately sung and so immersive and metal, but at the same time feeling really authentic.
Absolutely. And I think we're probably going to analyze more Arkona and more folk metal in the future, right?
Definitely. I would love to do another analysis with you.
I think we can probably, analyze Fintroll next too, because Fintroll is also very folk, but it's also a very different feel. It has a, more of a power wolf, almost, epic feel compared to Arkona, which is kind of melancholic and thoughtful.
That's very true. And I will be much more within my comfort zone because it's in Swedish and I can understand Swedish, unlike Russian. So,
hmm
yes, definitely. We have to do
hmm
Fintroll.
Yes, yeah, it would be a very interesting contrast with Arkona.
Right, exactly. So this has been really interesting, and thank you so much for joining, Fortunus, and thank you everybody for watching. And stay tuned for the next analysis of a rock or metal song.